Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is an important editorial. It is related to environment, it is related to conservation, it is about conserving and preserving a particular ecosystem. An important editorial because if you take sleep's concept, the last letter stands for socio-cultural problems, and the most important topic here, environment. And let us have a look at the enrichment. You will improve your reading skill related to the broad topic environment, and you will improve your comprehension skill related to conservation and all about environment and ecosystem. As usual, you are going to learn 25 plus words, and you're going to consolidate your grammar knowledge. Today's editorial, the writer has used one or two or three idioms, and some important patterns are there. When it comes to effective English, today you're going to work on five phrasal verbs. And all these are part of mini mocks. Today I have brought error location, not easy, double fillers, not easy, and phrase replacement, also not easy. Quite challenging mock test. And if you write about this editorial in your own sentences, you will be able to improve your writing skill. Let us go to the editorial analysis. Let us start with editorial vocabulary. The very first word, be at odds. This is not a word, this is an idiom. Something is at odds means what? Not agreeing with each other. There are two things, they don't agree with each other. Then we say they are at odds. Be at odds. Here, be is a primary auxiliary be. And whichever tense you use, you have to use accordingly. Come down heavily, another idiom. To punish or criticize a person or activity very strongly. In this context, criticizing the activity of felling 600 trees. Come down heavily. Connived, an important word and part of speech verb, secretly allow something immoral, illegal, or harmful to occur. Those in power and authority, they allow something to happen, something illegal to happen, then it is known as connived. Connived. Precincts also an important word. The region immediately surrounding a place. And here there's an important word, environs. Environs means surroundings. They have given this word many a time in different competitive exams. Travesty also an important word, part of speech noun, a false, absurd, or distorted representation of something. Something is represented in a false manner, absurd manner, ridiculous manner. We use the word travesty. And gel goes with everyday English. Do you gel with him? Gel means to have a good relationship. It has many meanings. Here you have to recollect a formal word, a rapport. Everyday English, we use the word gel, but effective English, we use the word rapport. Do you gel with your brothers? Do you gel with strangers? To become more clear and fixed one meaning, but in this context, form a good relationship. That's what you have to remember. Elude also an important word they have given many a time. Suggest or call attention to indirectly. Indirect reference to something is known as allude verb, allusion noun form. Hint at something. But indirect reference, better to remember that expression. Ah, yes, all those words, wonderful, Naidu, I appreciate. Caricature has a different connotation. Vicinity, part of speech noun, the area or region near or about a place, surrounding district or neighborhood. In the vicinity, I don't see any building in the vicinity, means in the surrounding area. That's also an important word. Ambit, part of speech noun, the range or limits of the influence of something. Ambit, generally we use the word range or limits of influence of something. It goes with power and authority. Array, also an important word, part of speech noun, an impressive display or range of a particular type of thing. Range of something specific, we use the word array. Revive, we have got many a time to come back to life, health, existence, or use, or bring something back. Usually we say revive something, means bring something back to such a state. Revival. Subtle difference is there. Precincts and vicinity, subtle difference. Generally, vicinity goes with whatever you see. Remember the letter V, and visual. It goes more with what you see. In the vicinity, I don't see anything. It goes more with you are able to see something or not able to see something. On the other hand, precincts does not convey that. It conveys the idea environs or surroundings. Circumspect, we have got many a time. Verb, wary, unwilling to take risks. It can also be an adjective. A wary person means a very cautious and trying to be careful. These are the words. Now let us go to the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial is about a case involving the Jim Corbett National Park, where the Uttarakhand government was criticized, past tense passive voice, by the Supreme Court for what? Felling of approximately 6,000 trees. That's a huge number. And today we talk about conservation, preservation of the ecosystems, and one shot felling 6,000 trees, something not acceptable. And the editor also says the same thing. But here there's one important word. You all have to listen and you have to remember this. Fall, fell, fallen. A typical candidate knows the irregular verb, intransitive verb. Fall, fell, fallen. But what is the past form of fall, fell? We have a separate word. Fell, felled, felled. This is a regular verb and also a transitive verb. It takes an object, usually a tree or trees. And here, fell means to cut down. Brackets, combination word, trees. This is something very important from the exam point of view. In fact, 2018 SBI, they gave a question based on this particular thing. Under pressure, what happens? You have this one. They fell many trees in our colony last week. You may think it is right. No. Here we have to say they felled many trees in my colony last week. What is the tone? Because they felled 6,000 trees, it has to be critical, it has to be concerned. The tone of the editorial is a critical and concerned, not a small number, huge number. How does it start? A slippery slope, slippery slope, something that is not easy to comprehend, something that is a bit vague, something that can escape or do something without getting caught or go scot free. On the Jim Corbett National Park case, tourism and conservation. It's all about Jim Corbett National Park. It's a case, and it is related to two important dimensions. Usually, we talk about development, urbanization, and environment. They're always at loggerheads and they're at odds. In this context, tourism and conservation. There are two areas when it comes to tourism. One is ecotourism, the other one commercial tourism. Ecotourism is advisable to create awareness among the people about the importance of environment. But on the other hand, commercial tourism is not acceptable. It is at odds with conservation principles. What is the main idea? Tourism in wildlife parks should not be at odds with conservation efforts. As I said, commercial tourism will be at odds with conservation efforts. That is not acceptable. Should not be at odds. Already I have told many a time the helping verb should is used either to suggest or advise. This is a suggestion from the editorial. That's what you have to. Or advise from the editorial. How does it start? The Supreme Court of India has come down heavily, criticized heavily on the Uttarakhand government. For what reason? For the felling of, cutting down of 6,000 trees in the Jim Corbett National Park. Here you can use the fishbone approach. What is a fishbone approach? You use a basic question words. What happened? When it happened? Where it happened? Why it happened? What is the reason behind? and who is responsible for this and how it happened. In this context, how is not that important, but other question words are relevant. What happened? The Uttarakhand government fell down 6,000 trees when in the recent past. Based on that, what is the reaction? The Supreme Court has come down heavily. And where it happened? Jim Corbett National Park. Who is responsible? Obviously, the Uttarakhand government. That forest officials and the top politician. Generally, what happens is one important word I would like to give. Need not be all the time. These are general things. There's one important word, nexus. Nexus means connection. It has a negative connotation. Nexus between the the forest officials and a top politician or politicians. Connection between the two. That forest officials and a top politician in the state connived means joined hands to allow something illegal to happen, to vastly expand the scope of a tiger safari. Here it is about a tiger safari, and they wanted to expand the scope of tiger safari in the park, in the park precincts, means in the park surroundings or environs, was a travesty of conservation practices, a negative word, travesty of conservation practices, according to the court. Here, whenever we come across an important word, I tell you guys, you have to spend some time. Travesty is a key word in this editorial. Absurd representation of something, false, absurd representation of something. Here, the court says that forest officials and a top politician in the state connived to vastly expand the scope of a tiger safari in the park precincts was a travesty, absurd representation of conservation practices, goes against conservation practices, according to the court. According to me, is not correct. It should be in my opinion. Very good, Naidu. In the judgment by a three-judge bench, Justice B.R. Gawai observed the presence of tigers in the forest is an indicator of the well-being of the ecosystem. All the naturalists, all the environmentalists know the fact that the presence of tiger indicates something. Those who study ecosystems, what does it indicate? It indicates that the ecosystem is healthy, well-being of the ecosystem. The presence of tigers in the forest is an indicator of the well-being of the ecosystem. Unless steps are taken, unless an important word, tell me why is it important? It's a negative word. In English, double negatives are not acceptable. Many a time they have given unless you don't sign, that is wrong. Unless you sign. In the same clause, we cannot use one more negative expression. Unless steps are taken for the protection of tigers, that means if steps are not taken for the protection of tigers, the ecosystem which revolves around tigers cannot be protected. To protect an ecosystem which depends on tigers, something is a prerequisite. What is a prerequisite? We have to protect the tigers. Events like illegal construction and illicit felling of trees, like the one in Corbett, cannot be ignored. We can't afford to ignore. I have used one expression, can't afford to ignore. I cannot afford. It has two different meanings. I can't afford. What are the two meanings? One goes with financial aspect. Imagine I see a nice car. I don't have enough money. I will say, I can't afford that car. Means I don't have enough money to buy that car. But imagine I want to say something against the management. If I do that, I may be at a loss. I may lose my job. Then I will say, I can't afford to go against the management. Here cannot be ignored, an important expression we can't afford to ignore. Events like illegal construction. Illicit also means illegal, but generally I give the combination illicit child, illicit child, born out of illegal relationship. We can also use the combination illicit relationship. Here it talks about events like illegal construction and illicit felling of trees, like the one in Corbett, cannot be ignored. The link between political corruption and environmental damage is especially relevant in this case as the court's judgment has consequences for the management of wildlife parks, particularly on the question of whether tiger safaris in the buffer and fringe zones of wildlife parks gel well with conservation measures. A lengthy sentence looks like a paragraph. Indeed. It talks about the link between, the nexus between political corruption and environmental damage is especially relevant in this case as the court's judgment has consequences for the management. Based on the court's judgment, what are the consequences? What are the implications? When it comes to the management of wildlife parks, it is going to make an impact, particularly on the question of whether tiger safaris, today it is about tiger safaris, expanding the scope of tiger safari in Jim Corbett National Park. And the question here, whether tiger safaris in the buffer and fringe zones of wildlife parks, they're like interiors, get gel well with conservation measures, not interiors, the you can say borders, periphery. Whether this idea of tiger safaris in two zones, one is buffer zone, the other one fringe zone of wildlife parks, whether it gels well with conservation measures, that is a question. Gel well means go with. Go with means match, not to be at odds. The court has alluded, indirectly referred to. Please listen to the analysis. The court also alluded to various resorts in the vicinity of the park. In the vicinity of the park means when you look around, you can see some resorts. It has the visual connotation. The court also alluded, made indirect reference to various resorts in the vicinity of the park that often played loud music and posed a threat to animals. Obviously, imagine a national park, then you cannot expect that place to be full noisy. It has to be calm and quiet. You can also think of words like serene, placid. Both the Central Zoo Authority and the National Tiger Conservation Authority are expert bodies affiliated to the Union Environment Ministry. There are three things over here. One is Central Zoo Authority, the other one National Tiger Conservation Authority, and they are expert bodies affiliated to. These two expert bodies are affiliated to the Union Environment Ministry and tasked with, they have the responsibility related to conservation and protection of wild animals. Tasked with means responsible for the conservation and protection of wild animals. In this context, tigers. These organizations, in principle, have no objection to the existence of tiger safaris. These organizations, what are the organizations? Central Zoo Authority, National Tiger Conservation Authority, they have no objection to the existence of tiger safaris as such, provided, but there's a condition. We use the word provided to express a condition. No objection to the existence of tiger safaris, provided these are conducted within the ambit of an array of guidelines, within the scope of a range of guidelines. If they follow the guidelines, there no objection from the two authorities. Wildlife safaris in a designated spot, allotted spot, draw attention away from the core zones. Core zone is the inside, interior, and draw attention away from, take attention away from the core zones of the forest, hence promote its inviolate nature. Because we are at the periphery, fringe zones, it does not disturb the wildlife, inviolate nature, as well as one more positive dimension, raise public awareness about conservation. Imagine this is a forest, the core area, and these are fringe areas, and also buffer zones. In between, you have something like buffer zone, part of it close to core area, part of it close to fringe area. And when we take the public to the fringe zones or buffer zones, There is nothing wrong with that because they do not violate or disturb the wild animals. On the other hand, they make a positive impact. What is a positive impact? They create awareness, environmental awareness among the public about conservation. This is underlying rationale, means reason. This is underlying rationale for safaris. Why should we have safaris? The basic thing, the bottom line, to create awareness about among the public about conservation. Their overarching aim does ought to be an important expression. Old English we would use a should and ought to, two helping verbs. Should, ought to, both are used to advise or suggest. The difference, should informal English and ought to formal. But today in the Western countries, ought to became outdated. Formal or informal, they started using should to advise or suggest someone. And this is important from the exam point of view. It is being used in this part of the world. They have given many a time. And usually it is, this pattern is important. You ought to be punctual. You ought to be regular. You ought to be diligent. Their overarching aim, thus, ought to be ecotourism and not commercial tourism. At the outset, I said, at the outset, please listen to the analysis. Mr. Raj, you're distracting me. Please listen to the analysis and learn something. While when I'm doing the analysis, please don't ask personal questions. Don't ask questions off the track. The purpose of this session to enrich your knowledge, to improve your proficiency in English. Listen and learn something. Their overarching aim or objective or goal does ought to be ecotourism and not commercial tourism. That's what is going on right now. However, however, in recent times, no, it is not a question of being angry. We spend a lot of time and we try to enrich your language proficiency. For each session, we spend hours together, back end work. And here, every second is important. You ask a question related to this editorial, I'll be very happy to answer. But you ask some personal questions, off the track questions, distraction for the master, distraction for others also. Even others' time, precious. Time is precious. We can't afford to waste. However, in recent times, the argument that this could be a source of employment opportunities for locals. Why this commercial tourism? What is a reason behind, rationality behind? No, no problem. It's okay, Raj. I appreciate your response. They say it is going to be a source of employment. However, in recent times, the argument that this could be a source of employment opportunities for locals and that state government should be promoting this has been gaining ground. One more idiom, I should have brought it in green or yellow. A particular idea has been gaining ground, means what? Becoming popular. Gain ground means become popular. The idea is gaining ground, means what? Becoming popular. What is that idea? When they extend the scope of tiger safaris and when they resort to commercial tourism, it generates employment to the local people. That is the idea, argument behind. The recent translocation of cheetahs from Africa to Kuno National Park, Madhya Pradesh, also aims to revive, bring back to life the cat's presence and promote tourism. It not relevant in this context, but the writer has included the main objective when tourism, ecotourism, create awareness. This, however, is a slippery slope. The main idea is being reiterated. Why is it a slippery slope, a negative connotation? Any area that is slippery, you got to be careful, it is dangerous. And you know what happened to the cheetahs, Kuno National Park? Many of them could not withstand the change in their habitat. I think many of them died. The recent translocation of cheetahs from Africa to Kuno National Park, it was not successful. This, however, is a slippery slope, and can very easily lead to political capture. It talks about the political connotations, overtunes, as the proceedings in the Corbett National Park demonstrate. Whatever happened there, it demonstrates the political overtones or political implications. The court has recommended that the center evolve guidelines. Now, what is the recommendation of the court based on the incident felling down 6,000 trees in Corbett National Park? The court has recommended that the center evolve guidelines on the conduct of safaris, and the government would do well to deliver on this at the earliest. They have to do two things. One, they have to come up with the guidelines, and second, they have to act very fast, expedite. If they do it immediately, it is like doing well. Would do well to deliver on this at the earliest. At the earliest, an important expression you have to remember. It goes with letter writing. While ending the letter, we close saying that expecting, I hope you'll respond at the earliest. At the earliest, an important phrase. And be extremely circumspect on its messaging regarding tourism and conservation. That's all about the editorial. An important editorial you may get. They have given so many times passages related to environment, close test related to environment, ecosystem, conservation, preservation, wildlife, habitats, and extinction, endangered. So many important dimensions are there. I always tell students this particular field, 20 to 30 years down the line, important, any competitive exam, environment, and this has so many dimensions: climate change and greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, depletion of ozone layer, wildlife, deforestation, extinction of species, endangered species, and conservation, preservation. All these are important. Pollution, types of pollution. You should have information related to this anytime it is going to help. Let us go to the questions based on this editorial. Please answer the questions. I don't know how many are there. An important editorial. And when you answer the question during the live session, it shows that you are a good listener and you are good at comprehension skill. And both are very important for success in life. And second one, very important when it comes to competitive exams, comprehension skill. According to the editorial, why does the presence of tigers in the forest matter? Why does it matter, the presence of tigers in a forest? How are they important? They are the apex predators. We use the expression apex predators. In an ecosystem, if you take the food chain, the pyramid is important. Herbivores, carnivores, and the predators, the big cats, apex predators, and they indicate a healthy ecosystem. Tigers contribute a lot. This is ridiculous. Tigers are indicators of the ecosystem's well being, exactly. What is the overarching aim suggested for wildlife safaris according to the editorial? The editorial differentiate two types of tourism: ecotourism, commercial tourism. And what should be the overarching aim, main objective of wildlife safaris? Is it commercial tourism, employment generation, ecotourism, or political capture? Apex, peak, zenith, top level. Oh, Pandu, wonderful. I appreciate that. Very sharp and spontaneous. What is the answer? Ecotourism, not commercial tourism, not employment generation, not political capture. What is the editorial stance or stand? Stance means opinion on the recent translocation of cheetahs to Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh. What is its stand? What is its opinion? What is its stance? Supportive as it promotes tourism. Cautious warning about potential risks. Indifferent with no mention of concerns. Critical, citing it as a conservation success. It was not a success, it was a failure. No, I'm sorry. What is the answer here? Cautious warning about potential risks. Yes, very good. What do the Central Zoo Authority and the National Tiger Conservation Authority generally support? What do they support? Unlimited commercial tourism? No way. Tiger safaris without any guidelines? No. Tourism for employment opportunities? No. Tiger safaris, they do support tiger safaris, but provided the safaris adhere to guidelines. Tiger safaris adhering to guidelines, sticking to, adhere, stick to, comply with. Answer is D. According to the editorial, what should be the government's approach to the messaging regarding tourism and conservation? What should be the government's approach? Prioritize economic gains over environmental protection? Not acceptable. Be cautious and prioritize conservation. Ignore the potential pitfalls, dangers of tourism. Encourage political interference in wildlife parks. Cautious. Tiger safari is acceptable, but provided they follow the guidelines. Based on that, they should be cautious and prioritize conservation. B is the answer. If you have got all the five correct, you should be happy. Wonderful. Avinash, glad to know that. Good. Keep it up. Let us go to. Now it is like mini mock. The timer is there. First five questions based on error location. Today a bit difficult. You got to read because of the format of the question. Four, you should be happy. Durga Rao and Ganesh also. All the five, wonderful. Your time starts now. Despite very high human density, India is home to a vast array of wildlife species which are found nowhere else in the world. Each part you have to look at and tell where the error is. Jaypal Reddy says all the five. Wonderful. Despite very high human density, India is home to a vast array of wildlife species which are found nowhere else in the world. You have to, Divya, you have to recollect despite, in spite of, but in spite of three separate words, not two words, in spite of. One, two, three. See what is wrong with C. You have to write why it is wrong. Here, the reason there is an error in the third part. Despite very high human density, nothing wrong. India is home to a vast array. This is a key word. Array of wildlife species. Of wildlife species is a phrase, don't consider. Array means range. Range is singular. Then we cannot say which are. We have to say is. The range is. Here the key word array. After that there is a phrase. Don't consider the phrase. Answer third one, but you should know why it is wrong. It is based on subject verb agreement. Go to question number 2. Your time starts now. On Friday, the Civil Aviation Ministry rolled out a blueprint for affordable flights, thereby moved a step closer to enabling more Indians to fly. This is rather easy. Which is wonderful. Time up, but no one has answered. Manasa, first one to answer. Here, to enabling, closer to, thereby moved a step closer to, enable, thereby moving a step closer. No, you can use moved. We have only one error. Thereby moving a step closer also possible. Thereby moved a step also nothing wrong. You can use this or that. But here to enabling is not correct. To enable, where is the error based on that? Enabling is not correct. We have to say to enable. This is based on basic form of the verb, basic form or infinitive form of the verb with to. Without to, it is called bare infinitive. Here with to enable. Her story, your time starts now. Yes, to plus basic form or infinitive. Yes, Ganesh, good. Her story is an extraordinary one in the history of sport, not just because she put an end to one of the unfair rules in sports, but also because she united a nation to fight for a cause. In some, yes, of course, it does, Pandu. There's a list actually. Time is up. If possible, I'll bring the list tomorrow. Do remember and remind. After two, we can use, for example, addicted to smoking, to smoking. This is, there are some verbs, and I'll bring tomorrow. Please wait till tomorrow. It's a lengthy list. Her history is an extraordinary one in the history of sport, not just because she put an end to one of the unfair rules in sports. Sport or sports here? Here we have to use sports. There is an error in the second part. Very good. I appreciate that. Question is about word form. Your time starts now. Question number 4. The rate at which technological advances are taking place, security and encryption standards prescribed by law become obsolete in no time. Exactly. So many are there. The rate at which technological advances are taking place, here the rate at which technological advances are taking place, perhaps comma is required. Security and encryption standards prescribed by law become obsolete in no time. It talks about future. Based on that, here it should be security and encryption standards prescribed by law will become. What is missing here? Become is not correct. They will become. Based on the rate at which technological advances are taking place, something will become obsolete in no time. No, no, not becomes, will become. It refers to future. Usually we say if this continues, it will become obsolete within no time. There's an error in the fourth part. It will become obsolete in no time. It refers to future we have to use. It is about future tense. Your time starts now. He has set out on a mission to understand how the river affects people's lives as well as how we as a community is damage the river. Okay, sir. Please answer. Time up. There's nothing wrong with effect. You have to recollect. He has set out on a mission to understand how the river affects people's lives. Nothing wrong. As well as how we as a community, we is or we are, We are damaged is not correct. We are damaging. We are damaging the river. How the river affects people's lives. Here you can say as well as how we are damaging or how we have damaged. Why not present perfect? We are still damaging everyday pollution. Based on that, we as a community, how we as a community are damaging the river. There's an error in the fourth part. The exam topic here, double fillers. There are two blanks. Read the sentence, understand the context. Don't depend on your grammar knowledge, depend on the context, contextual awareness, and try to choose the correct option. Your time starts now. A rift on a gigantic ice shell has grown more in the past few months than it has the past 5 years, and the consequences could be disastrous. Here has grown. Ask the question how. You need an adverb of manner. But more than that, context is important. Rapidly, slowly, fast, sluggishly, time up, but no one has answered. Briskly, briskly means quickly. One. It has, you cannot, here you can decide based on the second word. Rapidly, slowly, fast, sluggishly, briskly. Based on the context, some you can eliminate. But when you look at the second word, from the past 5 years, not correct. It has in the past 5 years, you can consider. Over, you can consider. Under is not correct. On, not correct. Between 1 and 3, what is the correct preposition? In the past few months, has grown. And here has grown present perfect. Present perfect, we use a preposition over the past 5 years, not in the past 5 years. What is the answer based on that? One is the answer. Yes. Your time starts now. Contrary to the usual of air travel, wherein July is a lean month, means no business, this year's air travel data presents a picture. Understand the context. Something is negative, something is positive. Usual, style, trend, air travel, that is the context, pattern, statistic, fad. Fad goes, time up, fad goes with fashion, short lived fashion. No one has answered. Contrary to the usual style of air travel, you can consider style, trend, pattern, statistic, no, fad, no. Wherein July is a lean month, contrary, obviously, something negative, something positive. A lean month, no business, negative. This year's air travel data presents a what sort of a picture? Positive picture, similar picture, not acceptable. A different picture, hold this one, and poor picture, not acceptable. So, what is the answer? A different picture. Answer is the second option. Very good. Go to question number 3. Based on double pillars, your time starts now. The new material, when incorporated, windows or sunroofs, can the incoming heat and light from the sun, thereby cutting electricity costs. This is based on prepositional combination. Awareness about that. Time up. Very good. I appreciate that. Try to answer the questions. Question number 3. Naidu says third option. Pandu also third option. Durgarao also third option. What is the third option? Here, incorporated. That word takes a preposition in. Incorporated at not correct. To not correct. For not correct. Of not correct. Only one in. Incorporated in windows or sunroofs can control the incoming heat and light from the sun, thereby cutting electricity costs. Answer is the third option. Question number 4, your time starts now. Initially preferred by many as a winter, velvet has over the years, over has assumed present perfect. Present perfect, we use a preposition over. Over the years, a standard phrase. Assumed great versatility means can be used for different purposes and can now be worn the year. Time up. One based on can be worn the year. You have to think of throughout the year. You cannot use along, across, fur, out. Immediately you have to think of throughout the year. That expression you have to know. And when velvet is what? Fabric. Answer is the fourth option. No, 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 no. Here simple. Now can be worn throughout the year. Throughout the year is a standard phrase. Once you know that, it becomes easy. That's why I tell students never depend on grammar. Grammar is important, but only to some extent. Ultimately, what matters, contextual awareness. This is what matters. How do you get this exposure to English, the language? In this context, English. How do you get exposed to the language? By reading every day. Question number 5, your time starts now. Recently, the local municipal corporation of the city has made the of yoga mandatory. Made what? The outcome, the duty, the essence, the custom, the practice. Practice of yoga mandatory in all the schools that come under its purview. Come under purview, again a standard expression, standard phrase. What comes under his purview? What comes under the government's purview? Based on that, what is the answer? Who has got all the 5 correct? I would like to know. Now again, another exam topic, phrase replacement. First question, your time starts now. Whatever you see in yellow, those words either correct or not correct. Correct, choose the fifth option. No correction required. Not correct, one of the options. Yes, TICE, practice, noun, TISC, verb. Good, all the 5 correct. Durga Rao, Naidu, wonderful. Tripur Sundari also. Time up. No one has answered. The drought preceding winter has played spoil sport with regard to the sowing of winter crops such as wheat, pulses, and oilseeds. These are not easy. Exposure to the language matter a lot. Has played spoil sport. Means they have spoiled the prospects of something. Winter playing spoil sport, not correct. The drought preceding winter, no, you cannot use the drought preceding winter. That came before winter. Answer is the fifth option. Very good. No correction required. Nothing wrong with this sentence. Evidence your time starts now. Evidence indicates that businesses are holding off an investment as they await clearly about this country's future relationship with the European Union. Evidence indicates that businesses are holding off on investment as they wait for clarity. Time is up. Exactly. Answer is the first one. Why first one? As they await clearly cannot be used. As they wait for what? For clarity. Again, about what? This country's future relationship with the European Union. They here subject is missing. They're waiting clearly, grammatically not correct. To wait for clarity, no subject. Answer is the first one. Your time starts now. Question number 3. Scientists at an American university have discovered a fabric that keeps the skin 2 degrees cooler, which will be good for the wearer, serve to reduce energy bills, which will be good for the wearer. Wait for wrong. Time up, but no one has responded. Not the third one here. Question number 3. Why only one student but haven't got it right? Hasn't got it right. No, no. Answer is Naidu has got it right. Here you cannot say will be good for the wearer to serve reduce energy bills. No. Will be good for the wearer and also serve to reduce energy bills. Answer is the second option. Question number 4. Your time starts now. Newly created a vaccine from scratch is a huge undertaking. But in the case of Ebola, several vaccines were already on the shelf thanks to the work of the army. No. And also reduce, serve to reduce. Time up, but no one has answered. Newly created a vaccine or creating a new vaccine? This also is also in yellow. Creation, newly created, grammatically not correct. And creation from a new, no, to create newly, the new creation. Creating a new vaccine from scratch is a huge undertaking. Obviously, the answer is the first one. Doing something is easy, doing something is difficult. In this context, creating something. Question number 5, your time starts now. As per the World Giving Index, India came down in the ranking from 93 in 2013 to 106 in 2014, demonstrating an overall reduction in Indian philanthropy, an important word, contributing towards the society, being generous for the welfare of the mankind. Time up, but no one has responded. Very good. Pandu first one, then Naidu. An overall reduction, nothing wrong with this, no correction required. Let us go to idiom, phrasal verbs. I will give you 2 minutes, but 1 minute also, I think 2 minutes you need. Follow out with, get along, look after, look up to, take after. All the 5 correct, wonderful. Manasa, Naidu. 3 also good enough, you should be happy. Time up. I said I would give 2 minutes, 30 seconds over. Follow out with, argue with somebody. Get along, be friendly with someone. Look after, take care of, look after someone. Look up to. Here we have to use admire somebody. Take someone as a role model. Take after, resemble someone. B. D, A, E, C, B. This is the order. Fall out with means argue with somebody. Get along means be friendly with someone, have a good rapport. Look after means take care of someone. And look up to, admire somebody, take someone as a role model. Take after, resemble someone. If you have got all the five correct, you should be happy. That's all for today. Hope you guys have got enriched. And these questions are very important. Exam standards, practice regularly. Every day I'm going to bring a mini mock. It is like a real mock, I would say. I'll change that expression also. And every day you take these questions in the exam with the timer. You don't feel that you feel very comfortable because you get conditioned. Timer makes a lot of difference. And also, these are exam standards. Have a nice day. Wish you all a happy Shivratri. Enjoy the festival. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. And do remember to subscribe and share. I'll provide the PDF, yesterday's and today's. Wait for 10 minutes maximum.